Welcome everyone to today's session, The Future of Print, Profit with Print. And my name is Jody Shaw. I will be your moderator for today's session. Today's session will last approximately 60 minutes, and today's webinar is sponsored by Navitor, which we are so thankful that we've got a great panel of experts here to be able to help answer any questions that you've got and going forward for today's session. Just a couple housekeeping reminders. Please make sure that you keep your session launch page open in the background so that you can go back to that same session launch page to be able to find the handouts in the resources tab, in addition to being able to complete the survey after today's session has ended. We'll send you a little reminder at the end there to make sure that you've got that ready to go. That way, once you've completed that survey, we're able to send our panelists the feedback that you give us. In addition, the credit will be added to your industry transcript for attending today's session. And if you have any colleagues that were unable to attend today's live session, please recommend that they join us in the future for a live session so they can engage with us throughout the sessions, but also feel free to share this session because it will be available for on-demand viewing in the very near future. And another thing to note, if you have any questions at all for the on-demand viewers or our live viewers, we will definitely recommend reaching out to our speakers and our subject matter experts here. Their contact information will be on the last slide. So if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to them when you come across that question. For those folks that are attending today's live session, please make sure that you utilize the chat box at the bottom of your screen throughout today's session. This is a dialogue. We want to see your questions. We want to be able to get answers for you. So make sure that you use that chat box for today's live session. And without any further delay, I give you Stephanie to tell us a little bit more and to introduce our panelists.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jody. Well, we're real excited to be here today with the great members of PPAI. So good morning. Oh gosh, it's actually good afternoon, everyone. So thank you so much for joining us for the look to the future and how to profit with print in the next normal. So who is Navitor? So first I wanted to start there. Navitor is a premier wholesale trade partner with a national footprint. So we provide a wide variety of print and personalized products through a network of reseller members such as yourselves across North America. So first, our goal today is to help you drive sales. And in doing so, use that, just like Jody said, use the chat function, use the Q&A, go ahead and ask questions. We have people standing by ready to ask you questions. We'll share lots of polls and pro tips with you. So it's going to be interesting and there's going to be a lot of concrete ways for you to grow. My name is Stephanie Drago, and I have been here in this industry for 9 years and working e-commerce and marketing and all things digital for 20 years. I'm super glad to be here with you all today, and we're going to have some fun. So let's get to know our speakers. Mark Krall, you have been with the company for 14 years as our business identity sales leader. So Mark is really the kind of person who everyone goes to with questions and ideas on what's possible. So we're really glad to have you here today. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome everybody as well who's joining, and very excited to go over some fun content and looking forward to the questions at the end. And again, just remember, please ask some questions and we'll get you answers.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mark. And Amanda Vogel, you've been in the industry for 20 years driving program sales. And Amanda, we were talking about this earlier. You're really bridging that success between the gap in promo versus print. So welcome, Amanda.
Thank you. 20 years in 2020. That kind of sounds like an omen, right? We were talking about that. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Amanda. So Sadie, you are next. Sadie Whiting, 17 years with the organization and truly our labels leader. So covering all sticky things, big or small. Welcome, Sadie.
Thanks, Stephanie. Hi, everybody. Good to be here. I'm looking forward to a great session with you and lots of great things to share. So stick around. Pun totally intended.
I love that. All right. Well, thanks, guys. So I'm going to end the poll and I'll just share these results. So we did get a variety of folks actually with a good portion of business of their business showing in over that 50 percentile. So I think, one of the things as you guys will look here, that there's a lot of opportunity, and we'll talk about some of those benchmarks and all sorts of good stuff here. So this is kind of what we thought we might be around, and you're really in the right place today, folks, for lots of good tips on where to profit with print. All right, so let's kind of get started here. So as everyone really knows, print is everywhere. Print is all around you. And when the pandemic hit, print was deemed essential for opening up temporary hospitals, measures marking social distancing, like the "We're open" signs that you saw all over. These are all examples of where print really makes an impact on our world. And whether you have a prospect who is secretly overwhelmed with the number of vendors that they're managing, or a current customer who you think might have an opportunity, we're going to answer the questions that you have today around where print is going, how to profit in this category, and we're not going to hide things like margins. We're going to put them right out there that your suppliers should be giving you, and we're going to give you the top 3 product categories and the top 3 industries for each. So where to start? That's really like the most popular question. And really right now, the time is just to focus on you. So right here for the next 60 minutes, turn off your cell phones, shut down email. I know that's really hard, but try to turn off the distractions, take its cleansing breath, and we're gonna roll. So I'm gonna first take us back in time, 10 years to when the iPad first made its debut. So yes, it's only been 10 years. And Uber just had 3 cars. It was called Uber Cab, and it was only available in San Francisco. And in the world of print, there were 5,000 more commercial printers than there are today, and 81,000 more employees across the industry. At Navitor, we were still taking 80% of our orders manually. So across 2010, we heard that communications were going to go completely digital. You guys heard it. Everyone heard it, right? Ebooks would outpublish the publishers. Direct mail was dying, catalogs were a thing of the past, and overall print was dead. Yet print is not dead, and we can't emphasize that enough. We want to be realistic with you. We want to talk with you about where print is going, but it is not dead. It just looks different than what we expected. So who would have thought that consumers, especially millennials, would report trusting print advertising more than digital? Or that brand recall would be better with print across all generations. And who would have guessed, this is my favorite, that the #1 e-commerce retailer in the world would be putting out the top printed catalog? But to level set and really to be real, print is hard. And despite some of the serious comebacks with the industry, overall the industry is still in decline. On the printer side, investments often take $5 to $10 million in equipment and technology. And so we've had to face our own challenges and really step it up. Suppliers no longer drive how consumers transact. Now the consumers are in charge and they do their homework. Consumers drive that $10 business card order, and suppliers have to figure out how to make all of that work. And I'm sure you've seen that. So how does this work? Most of you have, according to that poll today, it looks like about half of you or so have more than half of your business in print. So you guys are actually utilizing print as a part of your portfolio. So let's really start with the most popular question when it comes to diversification into print: where to start, how to profit, what are the top products? So I am going to pass this over to Amanda to get us started. Amanda.
Thank you, Stephanie. So in print and promo industry, it's in our nature to be reactive to those hot incoming requests. We've all done it, we still do it. But the big thing now is to really adjust to keep up with the ever-changing customer demands. But there is one thing that's remained constant this entire time, and it's been print. So depending on your circumstances, maybe it's how to start selling print, or maybe it's how to jump back in. But regardless, the goal is to leverage the products you have at your disposal to get more opportunities and to make sure that the ones that you have are profitable. So we have a poll here again that's really just asking, who are you reaching out to? We're curious. Are you working with the marketing department? Are you working with purchasing? Maybe it's operations. Maybe it's HR. Where you engage is really going to dictate the type of business you're going to see. So we're curious where you guys land. So we'll get those polls pulled here in a moment. And
There you
it
go.
looks like, so drum roll, right? It looks
Yeah.
like number one was marketing, and then closely followed by HR. So that's interesting. From a logo and branding standpoint, we do know that marketing really needs to be in the room because they are the ones who have all those pieces put together, right? So that's a great place to start. So what I want to talk about now is really looking at the who. So one of the biggest areas of growth our distributor partners have been witnessing is organically. But what does that mean? It means instead of just talking to the marketing team or just to that purchasing specialist, it might be time to start having discussions with the operations department or HR. So an example would be your customer's marketing budget may have been cut back because that's reality right now. We're all seeing that. But what about the other departments? They still have needs that have to get taken care of. So I've witnessed an increase in opportunities within the HR department, and one of you had actually answered that way too. There's an effort there that they need to keep up with that ever-changing communication for the objectives related to customer and employee safety and engagement. So, just looking at that a little bit and what that could encompass, there's a big opportunity there right now. The other area to focus on, even though how we sell looks different today, hence this meeting that we're doing right now virtually, we're doing them left and right? We'd really want to talk about acquisitions. Some distributors have been asking how to start gaining new clients because those drop-in visits aren't as popular these days. And our best advice is really to start with research. Do your research and learn about the businesses you want to call on. Learn about what their industry looks like today, and learn about the changes that have been happening in our economy and how they affect that industry, because everyone's seeing that a little bit differently. But then, as simple as it sounds, just pick up the phone and give them a call. Put those soft skills to work. So this is a fun fact that we actually just uncovered too, but did you know that only 5% of sales efforts are being done over the phone? So think about that for a minute, right? How many emails do you get in a day? How many e-blasts? My inbox is, I used to think it was bad a year ago, and now it's a whole new beast. So, but
Yeah,
right, so picking up that phone in calling really is a great way to stand out right now. We also hear about our partners supporting their communities, and that's led to new business opportunities. They're getting involved with networking events, and they're usually virtual, which is okay. But there's things that like Chamber of Commerce is doing. Maybe there's boards that you could sit on. Maybe there's volunteer projects that are happening, and really getting involved and building those relationships. Those are two tried but true tactics that are really going to help grow sales. So not to be overlooked. So next, let's look at that approach. So we kind of look at it as a how. We're seeing distributors identify the need to shift from reacting to those incoming hot requests and really focus on being a solution provider for their clients, taking more of a proactive program-focused approach, supporting all of their custom logo requests from promo to apparel to print. Not only is the program approach long-term, but it also seals the relationship. And that's big right now. Relationships key. So in my experience here, as we look at the slide, distributors that are able to offer online shopping solutions for their clients tend to have a leg up on the competition. With the shift in the way business is being done these days, it's no surprise that the demand for online solutions is growing in our industry as well. This is on the minds of customers even more so now as they're working remotely. So taking the time to explore a customer's ordering process can lead to better leverage of technology. Partnering with suppliers that can support those online efforts through e-commerce storefronts and back-end integrations really increase your product offering, which is going to gain you a deeper share of your client's business. And remember, online ordering isn't removing value, but rather it's adding value because reordering is so much easier. It allows you and your customer to save time spent on administrative tasks, because we all know processing that order for that business card sometimes can cost more than the item itself. But it also gives your customers better control of making sure their brand standards are being followed, and that's a big deal. When you make the shift from reactive selling to proactive or program-based selling, you become more of a valuable asset to your customers. And it helps keep you out of that rat race of selling on price alone, which is going to result in better profit margins for your business. Stationary products really are the gateway though into that program focused approach. So I'm going to kick it over to Mark, who's going to talk about the what, starting with business identity.
All right, thank you, Amanda. Some great tips shared. So now that you have a better understanding of what the process looks like, let's take a look at what the product offering might look like, along with who is using this type of print in the everyday operations. And we'll start with business identity. That generally it's that gateway category where many have started. These are the products that are used by all aspects of the company, internal or external. Internal or external, again, with communications or advertisements, anything of that sort. Like putting a logo on a shirt or a pen, business identity products aim to achieve that same goal and brand awareness, and just overall looks much more professional. Now, we all should know or recognize many of these products that fall into that business identity category. Again, if we're looking at this animated slide here, we're seeing, there's a presentation folder, there's a postcard, there's some envelopes, a business card, note cards, that sort of product. Again, the category goes on and on and on. And we all know that the hot item for 2020 was if you could get your hands on PPE, you were probably going to be making some sales. And again, some of you, maybe even 80% of your sales this year could be directly related to PPE. But today we're going to focus more on the print side. Distributors that we have worked with over the last year, we have had the ones that have shown some success or much success. We've noticed that actually that they've had like at least 30% of their portfolio has involved print in one way, shape, or form. And again, not just necessarily business identity, but again, just print in general. And again, how has that helped them? How has print been able to help them? Well, look at 2020, for instance. If you look at the pandemic, look what it did to the promo industry. It pretty much decimated it. And if you weren't able to adapt quickly or already had that diversified portfolio, it's probably been a really, really tough year. Again, print also provides an endless amount of solutions that you can offer your clients that utilize old-fashioned ink on paper. And I use the term paper. Of course, we use many other substrates as well. Again, diversifying into print helps prevent that all eggs in one basket scenario. And again, it helps with those when one segment of your business is down that you can rely on another. So let's take a look at some of the top three products, I guess, or the top three categories, if you will. Again, number one in business identity is probably going to be your business cards. And then envelopes / direct mail items of that sort. And then again, presentation folders are packets or kits that you can put together utilizing those presentation folders. Again, with business cards, let's start by understanding that a term business card, we should really use that loosely. Not only if a product of this size is going to be used as a traditional business card, but depending on what your vertical is and how you want to merchandise this product, it can serve as a loyalty card, an appointment card, a punch card, coupons, event pass, gift tags. Just go ahead and drill a hole in it. Wham, you have yourself a gift tag. Product tags. Again, the print market is seeing more and more being done with business cards. A lot of that has to do around with the stocks, the ink processes, and finishings, like thicker stocks. We have textured stocks. You're seeing business cards or cards of that size that have painted edges, or there may be duplexes. It's two different stocks that are glued together. You're also going to see soft touch as a finish, right? That velvety, soft feeling that you have. There's spot gloss, raised spot gloss, which has been a really hot item. Raised foil, digital foils, variable data. And then again, the tried and true, don't forget about those suppliers that can offer you the engraving and embossing, some of the old school print methods. Again, all of these different processes are going to help set your card out from the next. And we jump over into direct mail and like in the category of like envelopes and postcards, booklets, mini catalogs, and that sort. Again, this is another great example why print is not dead. And we can expect to continue to see an increase in this category as businesses are going to need to advertise to where the customers are. We're at home, we're here. So you're going to have to get me up one way or the other. But again, my mailbox has been absolutely inundated with action for quite some time. And yes, I get it. It's an election year. I've received There's a lot of postcards around which candidates I should be voting for. And I even received the Amazon wish book that Stephanie mentioned before. Not sure, can I call it a wish book? Anybody from Sears on this one? So again, we no longer are window shopping. So businesses will need to come to you. We know that there's other ways for companies to be reaching their audience. Again, using digital ads, social media, radio spots, commercials. But again, most importantly for today's conversation, print. Again, print is going to continue to be used. How many times in the past, like Stephanie had mentioned, have we heard print is dead or print is dying? False. It's not going to. There's been other things that have happened in history that led us to believe that it's going to take a big decline, but it just hasn't happened. Again, the last but not least is the presentation folders, or the packets, if you will. Again, so the market continues to see folders along with other complementary products holding strong. Again, the packets might include a presentation folder. A lot of presentation folders have business card slots. So, hey, let's sell some business cards as well. We have letterheads, brochures or flyers, and of course, the large mailing envelope in order to get it to your customer. So when your customers need a way to keep their print organized, folders are an ideal option. Not only do branded folders provide polish to the paperwork, the information packets and other collections of documents, but are also practical way to organize all of those documents as well. So again, this list is going to be ever evolving. Whoops, I knew this was going to happen. It's going to be ever evolving. So again, it can change pretty much at any time, just depending on what the market is looking for. And really, that's what comes down to the important. I can tell you what the top categories are, but really it comes down to what your customers' needs are. So after we talked about the products, let's take a look at what industries, what we're noticing and what the market is noticing is, some of those top industries. And I kind of lumped some in with subcategories, first being that companies that have that office or a lobby setting. Next is going to be healthcare, which has been huge, obviously, for different reasons this year. And then construction and real estate. And when we start with office and lobby, again, talking about like finance, like banks, insurance firms, manufacturing, hospitality. Again, this can really cover a lot of different verticals. But again, continued communication, education, and guidance around the virus and the mitigation are going to be needed. Again, this communication will ever be changing, all based on the current CDC guidelines. Again, print collateral will be needed to continue to communicate with their customers on what they are doing and ensuring that their customers are safe, but also to continue business as best they can, the normal day-to-day. Again, some of these products are going to be, with brochures, flyers, appointment cards, business cards, posters, forms, envelopes. Again, the list goes on and on. And in the healthcare market right now, the healthcare industry is more essential than ever. But behind the scenes, print plays a huge role in making sure everything goes well and goes as planned. Again, making sure that the patients and the staff are being communicated to properly and timely is very, very important. Again, there's a wide variety of products being used to convey these messages within business identity, such as presentation folders, rack cards, appointment cards, business cards, brochures, envelopes, letterheads, flyers, posters, postcards. Again, the list goes on and on. And in the construction and real estate, both are very hot markets right now. Again, we feel that the market's going to continue to need pieces around advertising, again, and also services and products that are offered. Again, postcards, direct mail, presentation folders, business cards, magnets, flyers, brochures, door hangers. Again, those are some of those top items. But again, it really comes down to what your customer is in need of. And actually, speaking of the construction category, Amanda, don't you have a pretty good success story to share?
Yeah, I do. And it's kind of a fun one just because it's a category that I think gets overlooked a little bit. So we had a customer who had a store already set up for a property management company, think apartment complexes and things like that. And it was a solid program. Each location could log in and order what they needed for their location. And then headquarters was happy because brand standards are being followed. Well, the interesting thing was a lot of us are experiencing sales being down this year, not unheard of. But this customer actually had his sales double specifically with this account. because that property management company was acquiring smaller complexes that were struggling to survive, and they would take them under their wing. And that acquisition process takes a little bit of time, but then what the distributor did is they would work on getting these new locations set up on that store. So then as soon as that switch was flipped, they could hit the ground running and order that stuff that they need for their location that's already branded with that new branding. So this is a really good win-win situation.
All right, thanks, Amanda.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very good. And so now I just wanted to give some tips when it comes to that business identity category and when it comes to those printed products. Again, so kind of a what to know and what you should do. Again, one of the big things is obviously we're going to want to know the turn times and how fast these products ship. A lot of times these can be a last minute type of an order until you kind of get established with your client in regard to maybe setting up that program selling that we had talked about before, or getting a portal or something of that sort. Again, be familiar with the main elements of the print job before, and to make sure that you're providing that accurate pricing. Again, you're going to need to know the size, the material, the imprint, any special finishing, application it's going to be used for, any of the quantity, of course. And again, any other special shipping needs or packaging needs and that sort of a thing. So again, the more information, the better off you'll be, and it'll make that project much easier to start on. Again, increase your profit potential by placing orders electronically when possible. Again, hopefully your suppliers have that tool built for you. Again, it just makes things much, much easier. Again, as yourself, again, look into investing in technology yourself as well, like an e-commerce type platform that maybe you can integrate in with your supplier and get orders to be able to flow that way as well. Again, so if you can take all that labor and hand touching out of it, again, there's more profits to be made by everybody. And again, most importantly, utilize your suppliers and get their help when that next project comes about. Take advantage of all the tools that they provide to help make that job easier and to speed up those sales cycles. Again, pull in those print experts. Hopefully it will be your supplier that can be that consultant next to you and help you out. But again, if you know a print expert in the market or in the industry, absolutely reach out to them and get more information from them. Again, it just takes a lot of that guesswork out of the entire process. And again, communicate to your customers that you can sell print and you do offer print. That you can, again, take advantage of those opportunities to cross-sell. And then, of course, there's some pitfalls as well that you want to kind of be on the lookout for. Again, one, the belief that print is dead. That will kind of set you back right out of the gate if you feel that way and if your client thinks that way as well. But again, there's many different ways that we can prove that it is not and that it'll help their business. Again, realizing that your opportunity to cross-sell. Again, you're already selling them some sort of a product. You already have that relationship built with them. Of course, talking about existing clients. Just ask questions. I'm sure they're getting print from someone. Why shouldn't it be you? Again, try to aim to be that one-stop shop for them. Again, artwork can be a big pitfall as well. Again, poor quality artwork, or if the artwork's improperly sized, that sort of thing. Again, reach out to your suppliers for assistance on that. Again, know the basics of setting up the artwork. Again, your supplier will be able to help you with those. Again, reutilize product templates. Hopefully your supplier has a whole library of templates that you can download and set the artwork to out of the gate. Again, it's going to make it a lot easier to upload and to turn that over. It's going to save a lot of questions when it is submitted, from billing departments or artwork departments, that sort of a thing. And again, not knowing what questions actually to ask when you get that project going. So again, if you have someone on the hook and you're going to need some help, again, hopefully your supplier can provide some consultative services that they might even be able to jump into those meetings or on those calls with you and act on your behalf. Again, communicating to your customer that print is something you offer. So remember, you can do it. It is possible. So with that, we're going to jump over to Sadie, and she's going to talk about labels and packaging. Take it away, Sadie.
Thanks, Mark. And before I dive in, I just want to say really quick, Amazon was super smart with using print because my 6-year-old went through with a pen, you know what those are still, and circled every present he wants for Christmas, which works great because now I just go on and, I can buy from Amazon or wherever. I'm just using it as a Christmas list, but print, it works great. So anyway, throwing that in there. So let's look at some stats real quick here. With labels and packaging first, speaking of that, it's actually a $20 billion industry from 2021 to 2022 is what's estimated to be. And looking at actually one area that we are seeing some growth in. So packaging is expected to grow in the next few years about 5.5%. And looking at labels, similar numbers actually, we're looking at about a little over 4% expected growth between now and 2025. So what better area to get into when you're looking for print? So one thing is that, I heard it just recently said that these two go together like peanut butter and jelly, and it is true. Packaging and labels, they really do go hand in hand. So as you'll see, they're definitely a part of the market that you want to be a part of. So as we're looking at some further trends, let's dig into these for labels and packaging, what we're seeing in the market, what the market is showing us as far as where some kind of hot spots are is when when customers are looking to buy these, what are they looking for? So the first thing is, of course, shelf appeal, which that's nothing new. It's something that's already always been there. It's continuing, though, to make that brand stand out is even more important now than ever. We're seeing buying trends a little bit different these days, of course, with everything that's going on with the pandemic. And then how is that going to affect us going forward? Is it going to forever change the way buying is done? We don't know yet. But preparing for that, so you have the online customer who's doing the no-touch buying experience. And that for them then is visual. They want to see something. We want to be able to relay that brand and really display the quality of the product with whatever package or label is being used. And then, of course, in-store competitiveness is really high right now as well. I've actually been in some retail environments where they have signs up saying, do not touch the products. And so again, it's all about that shelf appeal. And then if you're lucky enough to be able to pick up and touch the package, there's all kinds of things like enhanced finishing, foil and embossing, or color process that are all being used right now to really enhance that shelf appeal. Speaking of that, Amanda, I think you actually had a neat story about the whole shelf appeal concept.
Yeah, I did. It was pretty cool. We had a client who was supporting a distiller in their area. And the distiller had a good product, but they were having trouble getting the product moving off of the shelves. And that's a problem when they're in those stores. If product doesn't move, then all of a sudden they lose that shelf space. And then what, right? So the bottle was a really nice, clean, elegant looking glass bottle, really close to that one that we see on number 2 there. But the label was just a plain rectangular white label. It had a really cool imprint. It was black and brown to kind of fit their brand a little bit, but the distiller thought they were going to have to completely scrap and start from scratch, including sourcing new glass, which if anyone works in that industry, that's a process and a half. They even have to get the glass approved by TTB. So the distributor's like, well, let's start small. Let's look at a new label, knowing that we still have to follow rules and regulations with what has to fit on there. Let's look at doing maybe a custom die cut label. So they actually recommend doing a custom shape label that was to the shape of their logo, because they had a really cool logo. And then instead of the white paper, they did brown craft paper to just dress it up a little bit, since their colors are black and brown. And the client's like, yeah, let's go for it. And they did. And they actually saw a 50% increase in sales. So that right there really does prove that that shelf appeal is real.
Yes, exactly. And that's a great point. It's really, it speaks more than we probably even realize, Thanks, Amanda. That was great. I love that. Case studies always speak so much. So labels and packaging display a message and a feeling between the brand and the buyer. So that's really where we're seeing a lot of these things play into this. So also in the market, versatility is really a big push right now for that. So obviously, when you're thinking about labels and packaging, there are a lot of different markets involved. And all of those changes in demand and the request for things to be, here quickly, or multiple versions, or lots of options for the buyers, all of that plays into the fact that a label and a package needs to be versatile so that you can kind of meet those needs, whether it's something where a customer is looking for just a small quantity, multiple batches, or they want to quick switch something up, get a virtual or a press proof. All of that in the market is really big right now, with being able to be versatile. They might try a product, doesn't work, switch to something else, and be able to have a supplier that supports that is really a big trend right now. And then lastly, solutions. So there is an increased demand right now in the market for all kinds of solutions that labels and packaging can fill. things such as tamper evident, security functions. Now that sounds like really fancy, but what the market is using labels and packaging for is actually a lot more simple than that sounds. So for example, in the picture there, you have a simple label being used as a security feature to seal that box and let the customer know that whatever's inside that has been safely prepared and delivered. So that's just a nice way, a fancy way of saying, you know, it's just sealing the box and keeping it sealed until it's ready to be eaten. So security and tamper evident functions are more popular than ever right now. Unique applications that the market is seeing is things such as door seals, where you have a perf down the middle, you open that and it rips to show that someone has been in that room. It needs to be cleaned now or in that vehicle. Cartons for kits, we're seeing this a lot of different types of boxes and packaging where people are using kits to send out ahead of time for virtual meetings or wanting to share them with their students or customers, sending out gifts. It was mentioned earlier, holiday season's right around the corner. Packaging is great for that as well. And then of course, QR codes and menus on, or the QR codes being put on in place of menus on labels. I've seen them stuck right to a table in a restaurant. You know, that's something that the market's using heavily right now. So let's dive a little bit deeper into labels, specifically where the top industries are sitting right now. So in healthcare, as it was mentioned, that's a strong one. We're seeing a lot of things kind of evolve there as far as labels that were being used before, but now are just being used in greater extent. Something when you're looking to sell into this industry, think about programs, think about the day-to-day uses that labels have in the healthcare market. And that's an easy one to get into as far as those programs that are quick and easy to reorder. Secondly, in the financial services realm, we're seeing a lot of activity there. Mailing labels, water bottle labels, self-promotion. So think about the fact that in the market right now, a lot of the customers that people are trying to get to are not necessarily spending a lot of time in person. So they want people to take their brand home with them so it stays front of mind in their day-to-day. So something that helps with that is all of those ideas that were just mentioned. Brand cohesion, giving value by linking multiple locations. It was already mentioned earlier, but we have, you know, there's the idea of a program and a site and an e-commerce buy and things where you are able to go out and multiple locations can go to one place and place an order, and that brand cohesion is going to be there. Every location's using the same materials and they're all going to be consistent. And also, of course, like I mentioned, the site ordering. Thirdly, education. This is obvious. That's one that's really using a lot of print and labels and packaging specifically as well. Things such as the healthy hygiene reminders, parking permits, social distancing, all of that is very heavily popular right now and really spreading out a wonderful message as far as the school spirit. So tying that into the necessity messages of the healthy hygiene and the social distancing, but also bringing, kind of lightening it a little bit with the school spirit and keeping everybody connected that way. And of course, parking permits, throwing that out there, that's a great one to look into because it does renew every year. So it's an easy reorder for people. Next, let's look at packaging. Top industries that are buying packaging today. Now, as you can see here, this is looking at by the end use between now and 2025, what the trends look like as far as the markets, how much of the market is taken by each one of those industries. So anywhere from the food and beverage, tobacco, healthcare, personal care, boutiques is another one that's very large, not specifically called out, but probably in that other category. And then also CBD and cannabis as well. As you see on the right side, these are going to be the hot sellers in the market. Pillow packs, roll tucks, and straight tuck boxes. So just think about those as you're working with your clients. And lastly, rounding this out, let's just look at some of the common pitfalls when it comes to labels and packaging and where some of the opportunities might be missed. One of the biggest things that I see day to day is awareness, really, for customers in the market, just saying, you know, I sell labels, I sell packaging, I sell print, in addition to apparel and promo and whatever your repertoire looks like. Adding labels and packaging or print to those, bringing that awareness is going to bring additional opportunity. And of course, don't skip out on the small projects. Sometimes it's easy to look at a dollar amount and say, nah, I'm not going to mess with this. As we all know today, every single order counts. So I encourage you, take those small jobs and run with them, because that's going to be an open door to lead to larger opportunities as well as easy reorders, really, when they're coming back for more. And then next, looking at making sure you're asking the right questions and that you understand the need. So there's a lot of options when it comes to labels and packaging. There's all kinds of details. So find a supplier that supports you through each project, lets you know what questions to ask, what information you need, and really directs you to the best fit and the best solution. And then don't avoid the discussion because you're unfamiliar. That's the whole point of the partnership that you find in a supplier, is supporting you as an expert, or that supporting you as your expert. So make sure that you find that you get a supplier that's going to do that for you. So now that we've looked at the future of labels and packaging, let's move on to signs and graphics. I know there's a lot of great ideas and things there. Amanda, take it away.
Thanks, Sadie. All right, so let's talk about signs and graphics a little bit. In 2020, signs and graphics rapidly became a top selling category for many of us, specifically in response to the changes we've all experienced due to COVID-19. This category is one of the easiest to transition into if you have a strong promo background but are new to selling print. So that's kind of why we left this one for last. This scene here is likely a familiar one. As you see the images populate, these are products that your customers are pretty much going to require to be open and to simply be in business. One of the great things about this product category is how the same set of products can work for various industries. For example, here you see a restaurant, you're seeing floor graphics, table tents, there's decals on tables and chairs, there's posters. But really, if you stop and take a look when you go into retail settings, maybe boutique stores, maybe lobbies, maybe it's a lobby of a hotel or a clinic, you still see a lot of these same products being used. So next time you're out and about, just stop and take a look at what's currently being used, because chances are you'll likely see many of these products. That's what's going to help fuel those conversations with your customers. So about the products specifically in this category, in general, for a lot of suppliers, like in our scenario, the top three categories are really banners, yard signs, and floor decals. There's so much more that fits into this category, but these are the top items that are continuing to fly off of the production floors. First off, with the banners, some notables there are, there's almost always a good, better, best option. So there's different price points to work with for your customer. So large in-your-face messaging. And all of these products you'll see typically have about that 40% margin. So there's room to work if you need to negotiate a little bit with your customer too. For yard signs, just the sheer increase in demand for yard signs alone is what made that such a hot commodity. If you remove the fact that it's an election year and take those out of everybody's yards, you still see plenty of other signs. I'm seeing signs supporting small businesses that are operated out of houses. I'm seeing signs that financial institutes are saying, hey, our lobby's open by appointment. Here's our number, call, but the drive-through is open for anything you want to do. Also seeing them used for thank you messages for essential workers. So just some ideas and options that we've been seeing out there beyond just that political yard sign. And then floor decals really are rapidly becoming a top product too. And I wouldn't be surprised if by 2021 they move up to number 2, maybe even number 1, because that social distancing is so crucial right now. And with any decal on the floor, there's going to be wear and tear. There's different types of decals out there. Some are more durable than others. Some have slip resistant surfaces, some don't. But I have not found a decal yet that's going to last the entire length of social distancing. So they're going to have to be repositioned or replaced every once in a while. But the nice thing is a lot of suppliers usually offer those in low quantities, and something to think about with your customers to help keep them fresh. Maybe they don't always go with the same design. Maybe when the holiday comes around, they do a holiday design with a reminder to social distance. Maybe there's a fun tongue-in-cheek message to just lighten the mood a little bit, because we know what they mean. We know why they're on the ground, so we don't necessarily have to say, hey, stand 6 feet apart on them. So just a couple of other ideas you can think about with your customers. Now, looking at the industries that we're seeing this stuff happen, the product category is really going to appeal to just about any industry, like we had talked about. But it should really be no surprise that these are our top 3 industries: healthcare, restaurants, financial. Healthcare, we're seeing it everything COVID related, flu shot related, whether visitors are allowed or not, directing traffic, things like that. Restaurants, kind of like the image we saw, they're again directing traffic, they're reserving tables, they're blocking off tables because maybe not every table can be used. Financial, they're still open and running, but their business definitely looks different these days. So they have to make that information really pop out when people drive by, and you have to be able to see it from the road so you know what you're working with your location. So the important call out here is that once secured, this business is very likely repeat business, because as guidelines change and businesses adapt to what's going on, you're going to see the directional signage will need to follow suit. We're seeing this like as satellite offices open, like surgical centers in the healthcare industry, credit unions, additional branches in the banking world, things like that. There really is a continuous pipeline and a need for replenishment in this category. So a couple of things to know and some pitfalls when it comes to signs and graphics. Like we've said before, be aware of those production times, because although all of us respond to those rushes every day, when it comes to signage, it really could make or break a business, because there might be government requirements for the signage for them to even be open. So knowing how quick product can turn is going to be important for you. Also research the endless possibilities when it comes to signage and graphics, because like we said, they can be used so many different ways, and so many suppliers can do the temporary signage like we talked about with the yard signs and banners, but there's also other signage that you can help with too, like wayfinding, more permanent signage in building, or maybe it's ADA signage. So the recommendation really is to start small and then branch out from there. And then I also like to recommend that you research the area's rules and regulations for social distancing and for what that communication looks like. So that way you can kind of act as an expert for your customer too, especially if they're a smaller business and they might not have that corporate direction trickling down from them. They might need some suggestions to say, hey, here's what I'm seeing other businesses like you do. And it's checking all the boxes that you need to in order to fit those requirements. And like my cohorts had said here too, just lean on suppliers for product recommendations and sales collateral, because there's so much that you can offer. So learning and leaning on those experts to get some of that information is going to help. And then as far as the pitfalls, not asking how or where the product will be used, very similar to labels and packaging, but it also applies to signage too. Is it going to be indoors? Is it going to be outside? How long are they hoping that it lasts? If it's outside in the parking ramp, does it have to be reflective? Things like that. Not having print ready artwork, that's a big deal no matter the product, but it's especially apparent when it comes to signs in larger areas with larger imprint areas like that, because the lower resolution that artwork is, the more it's going to stand out as a pixelated mess when it's printed. And then not knowing where to start, simply turning away from that opportunity. Most suppliers that offer this product category have experts that can help guide you along the way, and you just have to ask. So from that signage and graphics category, you know, we really like to wrap that up as a lot of suppliers we found that do promo and print will do print, business cards, letterheads, stuff like that. But don't forget about the rest. There's so much more that you can offer those customers from start to finish with all things branded. And now that brings us to the end. So I'm going to kick it over to Stephanie. She's got a little bit left for us here.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. So where we kind of wanted to just start was, you know, just really asking you, as now that you've kind of heard some of these stories and case studies and ways to engage with your customers, you know, what are your next steps? We've got a little poll going there. And let's move into the Q&A section here. So I'll get back to those results in a minute. So when we're looking at, I've got a couple of questions from folks. Typically expect a mailing service to be provided as well. And should I partner with a mail house, or is it enough to simply refer the partner to one? Amanda or Mark?
Yeah,
I was rereading because you're kind of glitchy, so I had to reread what that question was. Yeah, I can answer that one, you guys.
Oh, thank you.
You know, it varies based off suppliers. Every supplier is a little bit different. A lot of cases similar to ours will usually do the printing of the product, and then have it sent to a mail house to have the mailing process done. So just a question that has to be asked up front.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And if the folks asking these questions have more follow-ups, just let us know in the chat there. That's totally fine. The next question is around some case studies. So the first one was, can you share a case study about e-commerce and print?
Yeah, actually, I think I have a good one that I'm still currently working on. But we actually had I mean, it's very prevalent.
Mark, I think that'd be over to you.
Whoop, am I here? Can we hear me?
You're good, Mark. I think so.
Okay, cool. Sorry, but yeah, so I actually do have a pretty good case study in regard to how somebody's been integrating both of them. And it actually started before pre-COVID, and it actually has 100% to do with somebody who was primarily in the apparel. Well, really, he was 100% in the apparel industry, and they were actually looking very apprehensive about getting into print. Knew a little bit about it, but just enough to be dangerous. And it actually started out where he needed a couple of name badges, and then they needed a couple of business cards. And with that, with the continued conversations, we were looking at, well, how can they place the orders a little bit easier? How can he get his client more involved to help themselves, if you will? And we were actually able to come up with a program where we actually were able to set up a portal and still continuing to build it out as time goes and as products get added. But we actually have it set up now where his client, which is actually turned into being 6 different healthcare facilities. So again, that would be a lot of back and forth with POs and orders, where now that those healthcare facilities can actually go in and place their own orders, whether they need a business card or they need envelopes or they need postcards. And we have some other products that we're going to be, ramping up here to get added to it. So again, it's taking that fear of submitting the orders and dealing with all the POs and worrying that there's not enough profit or it's just too laborious to get through the print. But again, with the right clients, with the right conversations with your suppliers, hopefully we can find those opportunities to make the entire ordering process a lot easier for you.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you. That was a good example. All right. The next question then that we have is we have when we see new distributors joining and they don't understand, what are some resources then that they can look to kind of learn, sort of that print 101?
Yeah, I've seen that, not just with us. I've seen that in the industry just based off of my experiences. I spent some time on the distributor side too. I did have luck with suppliers doing 101, and even if it wasn't print, even on promo or apparel, they were usually open to doing those educational scenarios. So kind of like with the other situations we talked about, just ask. Likely there already is something that can be done there.
Excellent. It looks like Stephanie's having a little bit of a slow Wi-Fi on there, so I'll ask the next question. Are you seeing, as far as order processing, are you seeing standardization of information when it comes to the supply chain as it's going from order all the way out to the end consumer? Are you seeing a standardization as far as the information and how it's laid out and all of that? Or are you seeing more individual companies are doing individual processing?
I could speak to that one too, just based off of my experiences. So that's something that I see happen more often on the promo and apparel side with that standardization. But when it comes to print, just because the printing processes are different, the systems that the suppliers use to get the work to press is different. There really isn't much from a standardization standpoint. And that's why a lot of us on the supplier side have really invested heavily on the technology side, just to kind of take some of that guesswork out and kind of give you a intuitive guide to say, okay, how about material? Okay, how about size? Okay, how many colors do we want to do? It kind of helps walk through that. So yeah, that is one of the sticky parts of print. There are so many pieces involved that yes, you do have to get it all, but no, there's really not a standardization at this point in the industry.
Excellent. It looks like our next question is, are you seeing customers and shifting requests for inventory of their pre-printed items versus before COVID?
Mark, you want to talk about that one a little bit?
You know, I mean, we definitely on our side, we will take care of that, and we'll help and support, you know, what we would call like a master shell, if you will, or, you know, before it's personalized, it may have the logo and a bunch of the standard information on it. We've always done that sort of a thing. But as far as I personally have not seen a higher demand. I mean, I understand why they would be asking for that. But again, I personally don't have, couldn't say that we're having a higher demand. Sadie, are you seeing that at all on the labels and the packaging side?
Yeah, I was just going to say, actually, it's interesting because if you think about a lot of the markets, like the top markets that are buying labels and packaging, I have personally seen the shift a little bit more precautious buying. So people are maybe not, if they are still investing in inventory, they're just not going as large as they would have, say, in 2019 and before, because they're a little bit walking on eggshells, so to say, trying to just look at what's next in the future. How is their business going to run? So I've seen, for example, food and beverage type labels where they may have bought in large amounts before in one design. Now they're worried that, okay, either I may not sell that much, or I may just shift my whole entire product to a different concept. So they're just buying in smaller groups right now. So yeah, I have seen a shift actually since COVID in the labels and packaging side.
And I'll
Great.
chime in a little bit too, based on my experiences. I would probably echo what Sadie said on the business stationery side, the business identity side. I personally have seen an increase in print on demand and a big decrease on doing inventory on the shelf, just because sometimes that print on demand might be a little bit higher than doing like 5,000 or 50,000 masters of something, but there's less risk involved. So the long-term overall potential cost ends up being less. So from my perspective, to answer that, especially due to COVID, is more print on demand now.
Right. That's what I see too.
Yeah. Okay, we're just about at time. So just sharing the results of the poll here. Most folks are looking for an introduction into new departments. So kind of using your current customer to get into areas. It's a great way to start. And then looking at the phone calls to your selling efforts too. So I think that's good. And then asking from our client more support from your suppliers. Those are great ideas. I'm glad to see it. And thank you everyone really for your time today. This has just been really interesting. I loved your questions and kind of going back and forth, just really interesting stuff. Hopefully the internet's holding out for me here today. We know you are spread thin, so that content, ask for clear pricing, margins, demand fast quote turnarounds, all that is a good partnership. They will already have that in hand. So thank you everyone on the panel today for your tips and experience for making it easier for distributors to sell. We really appreciate it. And I'm going to pass it over to Jody.
Excellent. One last question that I saw in the chat box was, where can we find the contact information? So I believe on that very next slide is might be the contact information. Mark, do you? Yep, there you go. And then one more.
Here we go.
There you go. Excellent. Okay, so on the screen is some of their, actually all of their emails. So please make sure that you are reaching out, able to get additional questions asked and answered. And if you are just looking for a good place to start, definitely based on today's session, they are a wealth of knowledge. This panel has been fantastic to work with. So we definitely recommend reaching out if you've got any follow-up questions. Today's session is going to be available for on-demand viewing if your coworkers were unable to join us for today's live session. Another thing we want to recommend that you do, our next steps are actually going back into the session launch phase to make sure that you complete the online education survey for credit. That is going to give the feedback to our panelists so we can make sure that they've got that feedback. In addition, it'll give you credit for today's session on your industry certification transcript. Today's session is copyrighted, all rights reserved by Promotional Products Association International. This officially concludes today's session, and we are so thankful that you were able to join us and for our amazing panelists. They have definitely been able to answer everybody's questions, but also to be able to guide us where we're going with the print industry. So I thank you all for joining us and have a wonderful day, and hopefully you'll join us sometime soon for another session. Thanks, everyone.